Good morning, and thank you for joining me this beautiful July morning in beautiful Sidney by the sea. This is at the heart of Saanich, Gulf Islands, the riding I've had the honor to represent since May of 2011. I have here, of course, communication from President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who uses social media as his weapon of choice with late-night rants. This one is extremely unusual, being allegedly a letter to our Prime Minister. We know that Prime Minister Mark Carney has made every effort to engage in good faith with Donald Trump. I think Mr. Trump doesn't know the meanings of good faith, nor does he understand the concept that once you've signed a treaty with a country, it means something. He certainly likes signing things. The letter is almost a parody of abuse of power. It is a great honor, he starts. Capital G, capital H, a great honor for me to send you this letter, which is full of threats and lies. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Trump. As the leader of the Green Party of Canada, as a member of Parliament, and as a Canadian who is outraged by the continual abuse and aggression we're receiving from what remains a great neighbor. I mean, there they are. I sometimes feel like Sarah Palin when I wake up over there and say, I can see the United States out my window. I see Mount Baker in Washington State due east. And I think all of us as Canadians understand that our disputes are not with the people of the United States of America, but with the current administration. And the decisions of that administration are a threat not just to the North American economy, but indeed to the global sense of international law, to an understood order of the world, to a world trading system, to decades of work in establishing something like geopolitical security. That's been thrown out the window. So why I asked you here this morning is what I would love to see our Prime Minister do in response. I think there's no question in my mind, I think everybody who was here for the election, all Canadians know, that the ballot question moved to who can best deal with Trump. And we rallied around the call of elbows up. I added to that arms outstretched because I do want our neighbors to the south to know that our dispute is not with them as individuals. But we have to do what's required now to protect our economy. And we have to make sure the U.S. knows that we're not going to cower in a corner and hope that someday they'll be nice to us if we give them all our lunch money. We're dealing with a bully, or one might say we're dealing with a pirate. Since there's never been in the history of the United States, there's no point in me saying I've never seen, there's never been in the history of the United States of America a president who so abused power as to aggrandize his personal wealth without concern for whether that would be seen as offensive to the sensibilities of people who understand what it is to be an elected official in a democratic nation. So what can we do? There are things we can do. So I've suggested this today to Prime Minister Carney. First step, the digital sales tax was passed by Parliament. We so far have essentially press releases and mentions that we're going to remove it, not collect it. We're collecting it. I would urge that the Prime Minister make it clear that the digital sales tax be collected. It's not merely an opportunistic move because these corporations are based in the United States. They have been enriching themselves while robbing us. They have hit different sectors of our economy in ways that have been damaging to the fabric of life in Canada, including through undermining our housing and access to affordable housing through things like Airbnbs. They've undermined the institutions of democracy, particularly in journalism, through things like the ability to have classified ads under Kijiji and Craigslist that have replaced the #1 source of revenue to most of the newspapers in Canada. We accepted a lot of what was digital as benign, and it's very clear, and we're not the only country around the world that sees this, that we need to get a hold of this. So I think reversing the earlier decision to appease Trump by removing the digital services tax, Parliament hasn't repealed the law. The law is there. We collect the digital services tax. It augments, as the Parliamentary Budget Officer has found, it gets us billions of dollars a year. But it also maintains coherence and allyship with the other nation states within the OECD that are doing the same thing. We mustn't cave, elbows up, digital sales tax. we also can show the United States that we are not powerless. Trump has said there's nothing in Canada that the United States needs. So let's take him at his word. It's hardly then a hostile act to say we're not sending you some of those resources. We'll start with a strategic reserve of potash. It happens that that's one of the Green Party planks that was reviewed by the Parliamentary Budget Office. We know exactly what it will cost to do this. We know exactly how it can be set up. And we know that the benefit will be that Canadians will be able to buy bonds to invest in what we're calling not Canada savings bonds, but Saving Canada bonds. Buy a bond, got a guaranteed 5% rate of return on your investment, absolutely only available to Canadian individuals, not to banks or brokers. And this will be an investment fund that can buy up the potash, so the potash producers are not disadvantaged by Trump's 10% tariff, the existing tariff on potash. But we know that in the United States, farmers, particularly that whole group of corn and ethanol producers who have deep roots in the U.S. Republican Party, that represents a other vulnerable fleshy spot in Trump's bullying tactics. We need to bite deep there so that he feels some pain and decides it would be a good idea to start actually reducing tariffs on Canada to get some relief from us about whether we're going to let them have and sell potash back to the United States. For now, we protect the potash producers by buying it into a strategic reserve for Canadians. And again, Canadians can help us raise the funds to do that. Again, I stress that this was costed by the Parliamentary Budget Office during the 2025 election at the request of the Green Party. So we're confident that these moves will make sense, that they're doable, they're strategic, and they can be done quickly. Pour moi, c'est clair que nous avons les politiques, les programmes, les idées qui vont marcher très très bien contre les menaces de M. Trump. Nous avons les études déjà faites par le Bureau parlementaire budgétaire, par le commissaire du budget parlementaire, M. Giroux. C'est clair que c'est vraiment possible, c'est pratique. Nous avons les idées qui vont marcher. We have ideas that will work, and we know this. Strategic reserves for natural resources are a way for Canada, not in relying solely on retaliatory tariffs. I want to make it clear. And the Green Party was, with Team Canada, on board for every retaliatory tariff. But let's face it, when you're in a ring with a bully, and the bully is 10 times your size, if your plan is every time they land a punch, we're going to land a punch back, you're not going to win in that ring. We need to be more strategic and go for the places that really will create some pain in places that Trump will notice, like his Republican base. He is damaging the U.S. economy. How much will MAGA voters notice? But they will notice, particularly in the Republican corn regions of their economy, if they can't get access to Canadian potash. And Mr. Trump may not know it yet, but the United States actually does need our resources. Les États-Unis ont besoin de les ressources du Canada, les ressources naturelles comme potash, puis aussi comme aluminum, puis aussi comme des produits de bois. Nous avons les stratégies qui sont pratiques et c'est dans nos mains de faire les décisions comme ça. So I'm hoping that we can encourage Mr. Carney to look at some of these approaches. Again, back to the digital sales tax. I would hope that when voices as diverse as Nobel Prize winner in economics, Professor Joseph Stiglitz, tells Canada, you made a mistake, don't back down on the digital sales tax. And our former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Lloyd Axworthy, says, don't back down. Go for the digital sales tax. And the leading experts in understanding the connection between the digital media and democracy, people like Taylor Owen and the McGill Center on Democracy and Media, say the digital sales tax makes sense, we should apply it, we should do it. Let's get it going right away so the United States sees that we're not cowering in a corner when they threaten 35% tariffs. This is outrageous conduct on the part of the United States. We don't have to make them our enemies. We don't have to burn bridges. I hope we don't. But in the meantime, elbows up. Yes?
Elizabeth, did Prime Minister Carney weaken his hand by removing the digital sales tax and basically capitulating to Trump in this regard?
I'm being very careful, as you'll probably notice, not to take any political partisan shots. I really hope that Prime Minister Carney and members of his cabinet will take seriously these proposals from the Green Party. I think they're more likely to take these proposals seriously if they don't hear me say, well, fill in the blanks. But we do know that when we cave on the digital sales tax, how do we stand up and protect supply management? And I want to say this about supply management. Trump mentioned in his extremely bizarre letter, again, he likes capitalizing things without reference to grammar, but that's all right. He now speaks of dairy farmers with a capital D, capital F, same way that it's a great honor, capital G, capital H. Dairy farmers. Let's talk about why Canadian dairy farmers are protecting our health and why we don't want U.S. milk to have equal access into our markets. It's something that doesn't get mentioned very often. But on health and safety grounds, the Canadian government years ago rejected the pressure from Monsanto to approve bovine growth hormone for our dairy herds. Bovine growth hormone is not legal in Canada, and in milk, traces of bovine growth hormone were at least found by the Institute for Research in Cancer in Lyon, France, to be a potential human carcinogen. So no, thank you, Mr. Trump. We will hang on to our supply management and protect our dairy farmers and protect Canadians. To that, we add what's happened in poultry. This is something I didn't see coming. The supply management in poultry is why, in the face of the avian flu, Canadian eggs remained affordable, and in the U.S. grocery stores, eggs became a luxury item. Why? Because supply management managed to keep Canadian poultry farms profitable with barns that had quite a lot of hens, thousands of them, but not millions. What made American egg prices go through the roof was that without supply management, the American poultry industry had millions of hens in single barns, which meant that when avian flu reached that barn, they had to destroy millions of animals, not the way we were more controlled in how we were able to manage in Canada. So again, it's very clear. If we back down on digital sales tax, why wouldn't we back down on supply management? We've made a commitment over and over again in the House of Commons to protect and defend supply management. We've promised. Nous avons fait les promis pour les fermiers du Québec et puis de tout le Canada. Ici, dans Saanich-de-Golfe, j'ai aussi l'entreprise ici pour les poules, de lait, des produits de fromage, et tous les producteurs de ces produits, nourriture, bons pour notre santé, sont appuyés par le système actuel pour protéger notre système agricole de gestion de la production de dairy and aussi so egg and poultry have been protected, and dairy for all this time, and they're clearly targeting that next. So again, we have to stand up. On doit rester debout contre les menaces de Monsieur Trump. And if we cave on one thing, why won't we cave on others? What kind of record are we setting? What kind of negotiation precedents are we creating?
Kind of a leading question, just here with the 35% tariff. What are you warning that hesitation will workers, communities, etc.? How would that affect them?
Well, we already know that, Trump has, for some strange reason, targeted Canada more than other countries, and then we know what we see in the media every day is this taco, is this Trump always chickens out, what's happening? But let's be clear, what Trump is doing is creating such uncertainty in markets, such uncertainty for the whole global economy. He is actually playing with fire in terms of global economics and could lead to a global depression that will affect Canadians, but yes, other countries as well. And he's also taken leave of any pretense that this has anything to do with trade. His recent threats against Brazil, I'll just mention quickly, his threats against Brazil, the United States has a trade surplus with Brazil. Why is Trump threatening Brazil? Because his buddy, dictator thug Bolsonaro, the previous president of Brazil, doesn't like that the current administration of Brazil, a democratically elected government under President Lula of Brazil, wants to pursue criminal investigations of corruption of Bolsonaro. Trump is now using that as a pretext to interfere in domestic politics of Brazil to threaten them with tariffs. So Trump's use of tariffs has nothing to do with the trade conduct of other countries, has nothing to do with economics or fairness to U.S. business, and certainly no fairness towards Canadian businesses. We have to protect particularly small business in Canada. We have to protect workers in Canada. And the best way to do that, we as Greens believe, is in strengthening our ties with other countries, like-minded democracies, who are also concerned by the ways in which Donald Trump shows complete disrespect for international law, for the treaties he has signed. And it needs to be said, that includes pulling the United States out of the Paris Agreement. You've got Republican congressmen saying that Canada should stop having our wildfire smoke cross into the United States. Climate change is caused by burning fossil fuels. We know that there are arsonists in our midst, and the arsonists are the large multinational fossil fuel companies that are, again, cheek by jowl with drill baby drill Donald Trump. Let's call this out. Canada is doing our best, and we're not doing our best on reducing greenhouse gases, but we could. We certainly are doing our best to respond to and prevent fires that endanger the lives of Canadians. Very much felt for Premier Wab-Kinew yesterday, was saying, how dare they use a political opportunity to criticize our province when our citizens are losing their lives? Maybe Donald Trump could figure out how to build a wall that stops smoke. In the meantime, it might be an object lesson for him to understand that this is one planet with interconnected atmosphere, interconnected ocean currents, and if we don't fight this together, basically nothing else we're doing makes any sense either.
My other questions relate to Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
Disease. I don't know if there's anything. No? Okay. Yeah, I just had a last-minute press conference with the BC Health Minister, and essentially the decision remains unchanged. Just a question for my colleague. What is your reaction then to the continued refusal on restoring treatment for Charlie Pollock's brain hurt?
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I think you probably all know. I didn't expect this. I was really hoping that Josie Osborne, as Minister of Health, would listen to the voices of the experts, Charlie's medical team, and those of us within politics. Two different MPs, as far as I know, Green Party and Jeff Kibble, Conservative. And we were both saying very clearly, we need to find a way to get this treatment for Charlie. I still feel that way. I'll keep working to support her family. Maybe there's a route through the federal government. I also copied the letter I wrote Josie Osborne to our new Minister of Health at federal level, Marjorie Michel, to see if there isn't something we can do through a national pharmacare program to make sure that this drug is available and affordable for Charlie's family and her physicians.
Yeah, does this point to the need for full, universal, single payer?
Yeah. The pharmaceutical industry, when I talk about, as I have in a couple of references